There are places in the world that make you question your own eyes. Places that feel like they belong only in imagination, yet exist in real life. In Hallstatt, a small village nestled between mountains and a lake, like something out of a dream. Or Mont Saint-Michel, an ancient abbey rising from the sea, transforming with every tide. And Giethorn, a place with no roads at all, where quiet canals guide you from one peaceful home to another. Each of these places holds a beauty that feels almost unreal, and stories that leave you in awe. And now, let's begin our journey to explore some of the most extraordinary places on Earth. Gujo Hachiman rests quietly among the green mountains of Gifu Prefecture, a small Japanese town where water and tradition shape everyday life. More than 50 clear canals flow gently through its historic streets, fed by natural mountain springs above the valley. For centuries, residents have used this water to wash vegetables, rinse rice, and preserve a lifestyle deeply connected to nature. Overlooking the town stands Gujo Hachiman Castle, first built in the 16th century and still guarding the valley from its forested hilltop. Every summer, the town awakens with the famous Gujo Odori festival that lasts for more than 30 nights. Lantern light reflects across the canals, while music and dance slowly fill the narrow streets. In that atmosphere, Gujo Hachiman feels like a living current of memory, where Japanese tradition continues to flow through generations. Gimmelwald clings to the mountainside of Switzerland's Lauterbrunnen Valley at about 1,367 meters above sea level, surrounded by cliffs and open alpine meadows. The village contains only a few dozen traditional wooden chalets, where agricultural life has continued quietly for generations. There is no direct road access, and visitors usually arrive by cable car or mountain trail. From Gimmelwald, sweeping views open toward the snow-covered peaks of the Bernese Alps and the deep valley far below. In summer, wildflower meadows and the distant sound of cowbells fill the air across the mountain slopes. As clouds drift slowly past the peaks and sunlight touches the wooden rooftops, the entire landscape becomes almost unbelievably calm. In such profound stillness, have you ever wondered how long it has been since your own mind truly felt this quiet. Nepal Vanjava is the poetic name locals give to Butu village, perched on the slopes of Mount Sumbing at around 1,600 meters above sea level in Indonesia. Colorful houses stack along the steep mountainside, forming a landscape that surprisingly resembles Himalayan villages. Each morning, clouds drift slowly through the valley like a white river, wrapping the settlement in a soft layer of mist. The villagers rely mainly on agriculture, cultivating terraces that cling tightly to the mountain's steep terrain. As the sun rises, golden light pierces through the fog and highlights each small rooftop against the dramatic backdrop of nature. The scene feels both quiet and powerful, a reminder that human life can still root itself in the harshest landscapes. Nepal Vanjava is therefore not just a village, but a living testament to human resilience within the mountains. Zermatt is a famous alpine village located beneath the 4,478-meter Matterhorn, one of the most iconic mountains in the Alps. This car-free village sits at around 1,620 meters above sea level, where quiet streets are shared only by electric vehicles and horse-drawn carriages. Dark wooden chalets that have stood for centuries blend with modern alpine hotels, creating a unique balance between tradition and luxury tourism. From the center of the village, the Matterhorn rises dramatically like a giant stone pyramid, piercing the sky. Giethoorn is a peaceful village in the Dutch province of Overijssel, where narrow canals replace traditional streets. More than 170 small wooden bridges gently connect thatched roof cottages surrounded by lush gardens. The village was founded in the 13th century when peat harvesters settled here and created the canal network that defines the landscape today. Small electric boats now glide quietly through the waterways and serve as the main transport for residents and visitors. Along the banks stand centuries-old farmhouses with thick straw roofs and flower-filled windows. In the late afternoon, the still water reflects the sky and surrounding trees like a natural mirror. Geethorn, therefore, feels like a slower world where life moves gently away from the rush of modern cities. Banff lies deep within Canada's Rocky Mountains, surrounded by snow-covered peaks and glacial valleys inside Banff National Park, spanning more than 6,600 square kilometers. The small town was established in 1885, becoming Canada's first national park and one of the oldest protected natural areas in the world. Towering limestone mountains frame the settlement, while the turquoise Bow River flows quietly through the valley. In winter, more than 7 meters of snow can blanket the slopes, turning the region into one of the world's renowned ski destinations. Yet in summer, the landscape transforms as glacial lakes like Lake Louise and Moraine Lake glow with their striking turquoise color. Bellagio sits on a narrow peninsula where the 3 branches of Lake Como meet, creating one of the most dramatic viewpoints in northern Italy. The village dates back to Roman times and is known for its steep cobbled streets and flower-covered stairways. Historic villas such as Villa Melzi and Villa Serbelloni were built in the 18th century and are surrounded by gardens overlooking the deep blue lake. From the small harbor, ferries quietly connect Bellagio with the surrounding towns along Lake Como. In the afternoon, sunlight reflects off the water, while the distant Lombardy Mountains form a layered backdrop. When night arrives, warm lights from the houses shimmer gently across the calm lake surface. If you returned here 10 years from now, whose hand would you hope to be holding while watching Lake Como together? Kotor lies deep within the Bay of Kotor in Montenegro, where towering limestone mountains almost embrace the ancient town along the calm Adriatic waters. The city is surrounded by nearly 4.5 kilometers of medieval defensive walls built to protect one of the most important ports in the Balkan region. Inside those walls is a maze of narrow stone alleys, small squares, and historic churches shaped by centuries of Venetian influence. From the base of the town, a stone pathway of more than 1,300 steps climbs toward the San Giovanni fortress at about 260 meters above the bay. From the summit, the Bay of Kotor unfolds like a Mediterranean fjord surrounded by dramatic mountains. As sunset spreads warm light across the red rooftops and quiet harbor, the entire landscape feels almost surreal. If you stood in this ancient city one evening, who would you wish beside you to witness the moment when history and nature meet? Rebo is an ancient mountain village located about 1,100 meters above sea level in the highlands of Flores Island, Indonesia, where clouds often drift across rooftops at sunrise. The village is famous for its 7 traditional cone-shaped houses called Membaru Niang, built entirely from wood bamboo and dried grass using Manggarai ancestral techniques. Reaching Rebo requires hours of trekking through winding jungle trails and misty mountain slopes. When the fog slowly clears, the entire village appears like a circular sanctuary hidden in a deep green valley. Alberobello lies in the southern Italian region of Puglia and is famous for more than 1,500 limestone cone-shaped houses known as trulli, dating back to the 14th century. The grey stone roofs form a unique architectural landscape unlike almost anywhere else in the world. Thick white walls are built entirely with dry stone, without mortar, using an ancient Mediterranean construction technique. Walking through the narrow alleys feels like entering a village from a fairy tale. In 1996, the Trulli district of Alberobello was recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Marsax Lock is an ancient fishing village on the southern coast of Malta, famous for its colorful wooden boats known as lusus filling the harbor. These traditional vessels are often painted in bright red, yellow, and blue, with the Eye of Osiris on the bow, a symbol believed to protect sailors since Phoenician times. Every early morning, fishermen return from the Mediterranean, carrying fresh tuna swordfish and octopus for the village market. Along the waterfront stand small seafood restaurants where visitors taste the ocean only moments after the boats arrive. The village has existed for centuries and still preserves the slow rhythm of a community deeply tied to the sea. Monsanto clings to the granite hillside of central Portugal, a village where massive boulders have become part of everyday architecture. Many houses are built directly between or beneath giant stones, weighing hundreds of tons, creating one of the most unusual landscapes in Europe. Narrow cobbled paths wind through ancient walls and led toward the ruins of a Templar castle standing over 750 meters above sea level. When the wind moves through the enormous rocks, the entire hillside seems to echo with a deep and ancient sound. What makes Monsanto remarkable is how generations of villagers have learned to live with this rugged terrain rather than reshape it. Between stone and sky, Monsanto becomes a powerful reminder that sometimes humanity does not conquer nature, it learns to belong to it. Rothenburg ob der Tauber sits high above the green Tauber Valley, a medieval town that feels as if it has stepped directly out of a European history book. Nearly 4 kilometers of ancient stone walls still encircle the town, guarded by towers that have stood since the 14th century. Inside those walls lies a maze of cobbled streets lined with colorful timber-framed houses. At the center stands Marktplatz, a historic square that once thrived as a hub for merchants traveling across medieval trade routes. As evening falls warm, lantern light spills from wooden windows and gives the entire town a magical glow. Walking through Rothenburg at night often feels like stepping onto the set of a living historical film. In that quiet atmosphere, the town reminds visitors that in some corners of Europe, time has not disappeared, it has simply slowed down. Spies rests quietly along the deep blue waters of Lake Thun, where the Swiss Alps descend gently toward the lake like a perfectly painted landscape. At the heart of the town stands the historic Spies Castle, whose stone tower has silently watched over the lake for nearly 1,000 years. Vineyards stretch across the sunny hillside behind the village, creating one of the most harmonious and picturesque lake and mountain views in the Bernese Oberland. From the small harbor, sailboats drift slowly across the mirror-like water, reflecting the sky and distant snow-capped peaks. As evening light settles over the valley, the entire town glows in a warm golden tone that makes time seem to slow down. Yet this calm beauty only highlights the quiet power of the Alps rising all around it. In this balance between water, mountains, and history, Spitz feels like a place where the world gently reminds us to pause. Kragerø is a small Norwegian coastal town scattered across more than 495 granite islands along the Skagerrak coastline. White wooden houses sit closely along the shoreline, reflecting across the deep blue waters of Scandinavia. The town once attracted the famous painter Edvard Munch in the early 20th century, who described it as the pearl of the coastal towns. Small sailing boats and historic wooden piers create the peaceful atmosphere typical of Nordic seaside life. Porris de Candelaria hides beneath enormous volcanic cliffs on the western coast of La Palma like a secret village carved into the island's rugged shoreline. Small white houses sit under a natural rock dome nearly 50 meters high, while the Atlantic Ocean continuously crashes against the dark, volcanic coast. The path leading down is a narrow and steep road along the cliff, making the journey feel like entering a place few travelers ever reach. Outside, the ocean roars with restless waves, yet inside lies a surprisingly calm harbor used by local fishermen. This contrast creates a place that feels both wild and strangely peaceful. Standing between the echo of the sea and the shadow of volcanic cliffs, would you truly have the courage to face such raw silence of nature? Albarracin stands on a reddish rocky ridge in Aragon, Spain, almost completely surrounded by a dramatic bend of the Guadalquivir River. Ancient defensive walls and Moorish watchtowers from the 10th century still crown the hill above the town. Terracotta-colored houses with projecting wooden balconies create an architectural style rarely found elsewhere in Spain. Many buildings date back to the Middle Ages, when Albarracin was once a small independent kingdom. From the narrow stone streets, distant views of the Sierra de Albarracin mountains unfold across the horizon. At sunset, warm light touches the red walls and rooftops, transforming the town into a living historical painting. Albarracín therefore feels less like a destination and more like a moment where centuries quietly remain alive. Rovinj rises on a small peninsula along Croatia's Adriatic coast, where narrow stone streets spiral up toward the bell tower of St. Euphemia Church, standing nearly 60 meters tall. The town has existed for more than 1,000 years and once served as an important port during centuries of Venetian rule. Colorful pastel houses lean closely together along the waterfront, reflecting softly on the deep blue Adriatic Sea. From afar, Rovinj resembles an oil painting of red rooftops, fishing boats, and the open Mediterranean sky. In the late afternoon, golden sunlight slides across the ancient stone walls and warms the entire town. The scent of sea salt drifts through the narrow alleys as gentle coastal winds move through the harbor. In that quiet moment, Rovinj feels like a place where time flows slowly with the rhythm of the Adriatic waves. Monemvasia rises from a massive rock island along the southeastern coast of Greece, a fortified town that has existed since the 6th century. From a distance, it appears like a solitary stone island connected to the mainland by a narrow causeway about 200 meters long. Inside the ancient Byzantine walls, winding cobbled paths lead through golden stone houses and red-tiled roofs that have endured for centuries. During the Middle Ages, the town flourished as a major trading port, linking Venice, Constantinople, and the wider Mediterranean. As sunset approaches, golden light spreads across the fortress walls and reflects softly over the Aegean Sea. The gentle sound of waves touching the cliffs brings a feeling of both strength and calm. In that moment, Monemvasia feels like a hidden gateway, leading travelers back through centuries of Mediterranean history. Tobermory sits along a peaceful natural harbour on the Isle of Mull in Scotland, where rows of colourful houses reflect vividly across deep Atlantic waters. The small port town was founded in 1788 as an important fishing and trading hub in the Hebrides region. Along the gently curved waterfront, houses, painted in yellow, pink, blue, and orange, create an almost surreal contrast against the northern sky. Fishing boats and small yachts sway quietly with the tide carrying the slow rhythm of a traditional coastal town. As evening arrives, warm golden light reflects off the colorful facades and fills the harbor with a calm glow. Tobermory becomes not just a harbor, but a living painting of Scotland's maritime spirit. Visby rises along the western coast of Sweden's Gotland Island like a remarkably preserved medieval town beside the Baltic Sea. Its stone defensive wall stretches about 3.4 kilometers and includes more than 40 watchtowers built during the 13th century. Inside the walls, narrow cobblestone streets weave past wooden houses, limestone buildings, and the haunting ruins of medieval churches from the Hanseatic era. In summer, more than 200 varieties of roses bloom along the old walls, giving Visby its nickname, the Town of Roses and Ruins. As evening light settles over the Baltic Sea, golden sunlight washes across the ancient stone towers and rooftops. Footsteps echo softly through the quiet lanes, reminding visitors that centuries of history still linger here. In that calm moment, Visby feels less like a museum and more like a living doorway into medieval Europe. Húsavík sits along the shores of Skjálfandi Bay in northern Iceland, a small town surrounded by cold seas, ancient volcanoes, and vast Arctic meadows. It is widely known as the whale watching capital of Europe, where humpback and blue whales often appear in the open waters. From the deck, visitors sometimes see distant bursts of mist before the massive body of a whale rises slowly above the ocean. Behind the town stands the red wooden church Húsavíkurkirkja, a quiet landmark against the wide northern sky. San Miguel de Allende. When dawn touches the neo-Gothic spires of Parroquia, it becomes a living canvas, where time pauses in deep, silent reverence. Walking these cobbled streets, the vibrant ochre walls whisper stories, offering a sanctuary for those who spent a lifetime chasing horizons. This highland treasure is officially the best small city in the world, a UNESCO site where 16th century elegance meets a fiery spirit. Yet beneath the mariachi melodies There lies a tension between modern demands and the soul's primal need for true ancient stillness. For a generation that has seen it all, this place offers the rarest luxury, the permission to stop performing and belong to the golden embrace. Here, the chaos of life dissolves into a peace that reflects the profound wisdom found only within your own experienced heart. Perched like an eagle's nest, 427 meters above the sea, this village is a testament to human resilience against the Riviera's verticality. Climbing paths carved into the cliff, the physical effort mirrors an internal ascent toward a higher perspective of life after middle age. At the Jardin Botanique, the sea's vastness makes city worries seem like distant dust, dissolving into the silence of the high, salty air. Here the climb is not a struggle, but a graceful surrender to the overwhelming majesty of a world that has always belonged to the sky. Ronda, perched dramatically above a 120-meter limestone gorge, Ronda unfolds like a living balcony suspended between earth and sky. The legendary Puente Nuevo Bridge, completed in 1793 after more than 40 years of construction, binds the city's two halves across El Tahoe Canyon. From its stone parapets, whitewashed houses cling to cliffs that plunge almost vertically into shadow far below. For centuries, travelers arriving here spoke first of silence, then of vertigo as wind rises slowly through the narrow chasm. Ernest Hemingway and Orson Welles once described Ronda as one of Spain's most unforgettable landscapes. Lavatetso, hidden deep in the Emerald Valley of Verzasca. Lavatetso appears like a quiet jewel cradled by the Swiss Alps. The famous Ponte di Salti stone bridge, built in the 17th century, arches gracefully across the Verzasca River in two elegant curves. Beneath it, crystal water glows in shades of turquoise so clear that every stone on the riverbed seems suspended in light. In summer, visitors gather on the warm granite rocks, watching the river rush through polished channels carved over thousands of years. Yet the calm beauty hides a quiet power, because the current here can shift suddenly after mountain rains. The village itself remains small and timeless, with fewer than 200 residents living among stone houses and narrow paths. Standing beside the flowing Verzaska, one begins to wonder, when was the last time your own mind felt this clear and quietly alive? Saint-Saphorin rests quietly along the shores of Lake Geneva, surrounded by the terraced vineyards of Lavaux that have been cultivated for more than 800 years and recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Landscape. The village itself is small, yet every narrow stone lane opens to a breathtaking view of water and mountains. Old red-tiled rooftops cling to the hillside facing the deep blue expanse of Lake Léman, stretching toward the distant Alps. In the late afternoon, golden sunlight pours across the vineyard terraces, turning the entire slope into a soft tapestry of light. From this vantage point, the horizon appears almost seamless, where sky and lake blend together in silence. But the real magic of Saint-Saphorin lies beyond scenery, in the strange sensation that time slows among its centuries-old walls. In that quiet moment, Lake Geneva becomes a vast mirror, reflecting the calm spirit of historic Europe. Maratea stretches along the Tyrrhenian coast of southern Italy, where rugged mountains suddenly fall into the deep blue waters of the Mediterranean Sea. This small town is home to more than 20 historic churches and is often called the city of 44 bell towers, a rare spiritual heritage in the Basilicata region. High above the town, the statue of Cristo Redentore stands on Monte San Biagio at over 600 meters, watching silently over the coastline. As sunset approaches warm, red light spreads across the sea and turns Maratea into a vast natural stage. Gentle waves echo against the rocky coast, setting the slow rhythm of the Mediterranean evening. If you had to choose, would you keep the powerful sound of the sea or the absolute silence of the sunset over this coast? Rocamadour clings to the vertical limestone cliffs of the Alzou Valley, rising like a historic stone village, slowly climbing into the sky of southern France. From a distance, layered houses and church towers line a cliff nearly 150 meters high, forming a view that immediately captures the attention of travelers. Since the 12th century, Rocamadour has been one of Europe's most important pilgrimage sites, closely connected with the revered statue of the Black Madonna. A historic staircase of 216 stone steps guides visitors upward through moss-covered walls and chapels built directly into the cliff. As evening light touches the rock, the entire village glows in warm gold, resembling a sacred fortress suspended above the valley. The sound of church bells echoes through the canyon and brings a rare moment of silence. In that quiet atmosphere, Rocamadour stands as a timeless symbol of faith and human devotion. Morcote rests quietly along the shores of Lake Lugano, a small village in Ticino, where Mediterranean architecture blends with the serene alpine landscape of southern Switzerland. Warm, earth-toned houses cascade gently toward the waterfront, reflecting softly across the deep blue lake in the early morning light. From the lakeside square, an old stone stairway climbs toward the church of Santa Maria del Sasso, perched high above the village. From that hillside vantage point, the entire sweep of Lake Lugano opens like a calm mirror between the surrounding mountains. Palm trees and cypress gardens surround the village, giving Morcote a character rarely found elsewhere in Switzerland. As afternoon light drifts across the lake, the town slowly glows in warm golden tones. In that quiet harmony of water, stone, and mountains, Morcote feels like a place where time moves more gently. Dürnstein rests quietly along the deep blue Danube River, a small village in Austria's Wachau Valley, where history and landscape merge like a scene from an old film. Pastel-colored houses line narrow stone streets, while high above the village stand the ruins of Quenringa Castle, perched nearly 300 meters on the rocky hillside. It was here, in 1192, that England's King Richard the Lionheart was famously imprisoned after returning from the Crusades. From the riverbank, the blue and white tower of Dürnstein Abbey rises gracefully among terraced vineyards covering the slopes of the Wachau Valley. As the sun sets, golden light reflects across the Danube, and the entire village seems to drift slowly through time. A soft wind moves across the vineyards and adds a quiet sense of depth to the landscape. In this moment, Dürnstein feels like a living memory of Europe's medieval past.